Have you ever wondered if watching adult content really makes you less? It's a question that's likely crossed your mind, given the common societal perception around the consumption of adult content. We've all heard the whispers, the judgments, the assumptions, but how much of that is actually based on fact? Is there any substance to these claims, or are they merely misconceptions born from cultural stigma and misinformation? Let's delve into scientific research to find the answer. First, we need to debunk some myths. And there are plenty of them swirling around when it comes to watching adult content. One of the most common myths is that watching adult content can lead to addiction. This is a loaded statement that can stir up a lot of fear and stigma. The term addiction is often used loosely in everyday conversations, but from a scientific perspective, it refers to a severe substance use disorder characterized by a physical and psychological dependence. The American Psychiatric Association does not recognize porn addiction as a diagnosable condition, partly because the research on this topic is still in its infancy, and the results are far from conclusive. Another widespread myth is that watching adult content warps sexual expectations, creating unrealistic standards for physical appearance and performance. It's crucial to remember that adult content is a form of entertainment, not an educational resource or a reflection of reality. Just as action movies don't provide a realistic portrayal of everyday life, adult content doesn't accurately depict typical sexual experiences. Some may argue that it devalues partners in real-life relationships, reducing them to mere objects of desire. However, this is a vast overgeneralization. While it's true that some individuals may develop unhealthy habits or attitudes, it's not accurate or fair to attribute this to adult content alone. Perhaps one of the most damaging myths is that watching adult content is morally wrong or harmful. This moralistic view often stems from cultural, religious, or personal beliefs, rather than empirical evidence. It's important to note that adult content, like any other form of media, can be consumed responsibly and consensually. Lastly, it's worth mentioning that there's a significant lack of scientific evidence supporting these myths. Many studies on this subject are methodologically flawed or biased. They often rely on self-reported data, which is notoriously unreliable, or they don't adequately account for confounding factors. While these myths are popular, they are not supported by scientific research. It's vital to separate fact from fiction when discussing sensitive topics like this. Our understanding should be based on reliable evidence, not unfounded fears or moralistic judgments. Now let's explore what science has to say. Diving headfirst into the realm of scientific research, we find a multitude of studies conducted to investigate the impact of consuming adult content on our brain activity and behavior. Let's start with a study from the esteemed University of California, Los Angeles, better known as UCLA. This study, which was rather comprehensive, found no correlation between watching adult content and reduced brain activity. Yes, you heard it right, no connection was found. The researchers studied brain activity using advanced neuroimaging techniques, and the results were consistent across the board, irrespective of the frequency of consumption. Now you might be wondering about the effects on behavior. Well, let's turn our attention to a study from the University of Montreal. This Canadian research institution conducted an investigation aimed at uncovering any potential links between the consumption of adult content and changes in sexual behavior. The results? They found no evidence to suggest such a correlation. Whether the participants consumed adult content frequently or infrequently, there was no significant change in their sexual behavior. In the same vein, a study from the Max Planck Institute in Germany found that there was no direct link between consuming adult content and a decrease in gray matter in the brain, a notion often touted by the media. This study, like the others, used high-tech neuroimaging techniques to examine the brain's structure and function. Even though these studies paint a different picture than what's popularly believed, it's important to remember that science is always evolving. New research might uncover different aspects of this topic that we are currently unaware of. However, based on the information we have now, it seems that consuming adult content does not inherently lead to a decrease in brain activity or a change in sexual behavior. As always, it's essential to approach such matters with an open mind, understanding that our actions and habits can have varied effects on different people. These studies suggest that watching adult content does not make you less, contrary to popular belief. Like with everything else, moderation is key. This adage, often associated with diet and exercise, holds true even in the realm of adult content consumption. You see, it's not the viewing of adult content itself that may be harmful, but rather the frequency and intensity of such consumption. Just as overindulging in any activity can lead to negative repercussions, so can excessive consumption of adult content. It's like eating chocolate. A small piece every now and then can be a delightful treat. But if you're devouring a whole bar every day, well, that's when the problems start creeping in. You might find yourself developing an unhealthy dependence or experiencing skewed perceptions of reality. In the context of adult content, overconsumption can lead to unrealistic expectations about relationships and sexuality, and in extreme cases may even contribute to addictive behaviors. However, this doesn't mean that viewing adult content is inherently damaging. When consumed in moderation, it can be a part of a normal, healthy adult life. Some studies even suggest that moderate consumption can have positive effects, like boosting libido and promoting open-mindedness about sexuality. So, remember, it's not about total abstinence. It's about finding a balance, understanding your own limits, and maintaining a healthy relationship with your habits. As with all aspects of life, it's about moderation. So the key is not to abstain completely, but to consume in moderation. So, does watching adult content make you less? The answer is, not necessarily. We've navigated this complex topic today, breaking down common misconceptions and debunking myths. We've unearthed that the negative impacts often associated with adult content consumption are not as straightforward as they seem, and are often based on misconceptions and misinformation. We've dived into the science behind it, highlighting the fact that it's not necessarily the content itself that's harmful, but rather the potential for misuse and overconsumption. We've explored how it can affect our brains, but also how these effects are not universally negative. And we've discussed the crucial role of moderation. Just like with any indulgence, balance is key. Consuming adult content responsibly, understanding its nature, and not letting it become a harmful habit is what truly matters. Remember, what matters is not whether you consume adult content, but how you consume it.